Welcome to the OC. This is the Ordered Chaos podcast here with my co-host Corey, and I'm your host Phil. We're going to be discussing some crazy conspiracy theories and weird and eclectic stuff over the next many episodes.
Boy, I love your optimism. Many. Not a few, not a couple, like, many.
We'll see if we get bored.
And I want to clarify, it's not just air quotes conspiracies, although that is a big fun part. It has more to do with the fact that there are many different sides to things, right? Everybody sees things, perceives things differently. Like this is kind of like the Matrix, you know? It's not about bending the spoon, it's that there is no spoon. This whole idea of truth, what things are. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty screwed up. And hopefully this will be entertaining. Watching us muddle our way through this.
I think muddle. Yeah.
I like that word, muddle.
Right. I do too. Well, I mean, we talked about this, like what our first episode would be. And I think we kind of came to the same conclusion that we should be talking about something, you know, the history that we're living through right now. And what better way to do that than talk about, of course, COVID-19 and all of the juicy, ridiculous nonsense that's attributed to that.
Yeah. And okay, for the record, when we say juicy nonsense, we're going to be delving an awful lot into some of the weird stuff out there that, about the origins, about what people are doing and where we're going from here, that sort of thing. Because there's many different views. Some of them are absolutely fascinating. Others just boggle the mind.
Yeah. I'm sort of like a skeptic who wants to believe. I want to be convinced, but I'm not there.
I looked at some of those. Phil, I've gone through a couple of them. I know. It's something I want to believe. Okay. I'm like, okay, let's sit down and let's take a look.
Out of all the ones I looked at, there's like maybe two.
I want to see if we pick the same two. So,
okay,
I have two that I think are the most likely. And then I want to see if they line up. Okay. So
let's
do me a favor. Do me a favor. Here, do this.
What?
I want you to write down on a piece of paper or on a note somewhere. I'm going to type it up.
Okay.
Okay. Pick the one you think is most likely.
I'm only going to pick one.
Just pick one. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. The one that is most likely.
Let me see here, because
now the one I'm picking from is the origins, like the multitude of the origins of it. Okay. Now,
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm going to do.
Because that's easy. Everything else is kind of hard. Like the origins, because of the time that COVID-19 has been around, there's been a lot of theories that have been floated up. They've had time to percolate, really bake in that oven. And
oh, it really has. So
okay, I've put mine. I've created a little notepad here.
I've got my. It's right here.
Okay.
It's.
Do I need to write? I should write it down too. Here, 1 second.
You should. So the first one that I'd like the 5G.
That is my favorite one, by the way. Okay.
Okay.
So for anybody out there, in case you've been living in a bunker or a rock or somewhere, COVID-19 is our new reality right now, right? So let's start with the origins. Yeah. Back in December, Wuhan, total lockdown, terrible. The world looked on in horror and said, oh my God, that's awful. Glad it's not here. Well, 3 months later, it's here. Wherever you are, it's here. So by March, everywhere across the world had cases. What was it? Italy had, they were running out of.
Yeah, it spread pretty rapidly. Mm-hmm. That could be because none of the airports were shut down. That has a little.
Anyway,
who's pointing fingers?
I honestly didn't think that it was going to go as bad as it was. Like as much as it pains me to say this, my manager, his wife works with Ottawa Public Health, and she was saying that it's, you know, this is really, really bad and it's going to be horrible. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm sure it's not great, but this isn't airborne cancer.
Yeah.
You know,
we didn't really know what to expect. I assumed that, you know, there's obviously things that the governments don't want to tell you right away to, you know, incite ridiculous toilet paper expenditures. People, what the fuck?
You know what they say about why, you know what they say about why everybody hoarded toilet paper?
No, what?
Because during the time of COVID, whenever anybody sneezes, everybody shits themselves.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's a classic joke. You can keep that one.
I'm writing that down. Right?
Writing down my answer.
So yeah, well, I remember before all this happened, 3 weeks before everything got crazy, I said to my wife, I said, well, let's go and grab a few things and be safe, you know, just in case. And we did. We didn't stock up crazy, but we bought a few extra
because
things.
You were already stocked up crazy. If you're like me, you keep a deep pantry. Because
we are, yes. So we didn't really go crazy on toilet paper. I figured worst case scenario, old t-shirts are getting cut up, and you know,
I cut them up. That's what you have laundry for, right?
Well, this is it. You know,
socks.
So,
you socks. You always have that odd sock, right? Like seriously, folks, apocalypse situation. Go through your sock drawer because you'll always find that one mated sock. You're like, I can't throw it out because I haven't found the other. Well, if you haven't found it by the time the apocalypse comes, it's toilet paper. And it's washable.
Like you've done this. It sounds like you've.
I'm sure if you were to go check out some survivalist forums, they've said socks.
Yeah, sure. I guess. I don't know. I can find something.
Eggs was what I had trouble. My first thing that something was up was eggs.
Oh, I went talking about wiping with eggs.
No,
like we're gonna have to start this video over.
That's right. No, so when I went there, like I noticed the toilet paper thing, but I was like, okay, weird. But I'm like, where are all the eggs? Like it's when I first started noticing the supply chain was starting to break down in some areas.
Shells are bare here. I mean, I can't speak for big. I only assume that it's the same there.
There were so they're not. I didn't see any bare, but like I said, some things like your toilet papers were done. Hand
paper
sanitizer
towel,
gone.
Cleaners.
Paper towel was again when you run out of when you run out of toilet paper. Apparently, you switched to paper towel, so that's probably didn't do wonders for the sewer system.
It's almost like my family's been preparing for this for years. My wife has stockpiles of hand sanitizer. We've had it for
so you didn't make years. You didn't make any of your own, the stuff that causes the skin to peel off your hands.
We didn't even make a dent in ours. It's like piles, I'm telling you. Every vehicle had hand sanitizer long before every room of the house. I don't know. I don't barely use it, but whatever. So back to 5G.
Okay, so this is when the timeline stuff got created. Everything went to hell, right? Now, how did this happen? So go ahead.
5G?
How did the 5G? What's 5G with regards to the cause of COVID?
So the idea is that, and this was early on because I remember people talking about this because the correlation between COVID-19 and the 5G towers were reasonably close, like when 5G was starting to be introduced. So of course, you know, the idea is that, you know, 5G is this, I don't know, like radiation that is intended to, you know, give us diseases. This is the idea, and to control population. So that's the big conspiracy behind this, is that, okay, we have 5G towers now.
Now, do you think it has anything to do with the fact that Huawei is Chinese and they were big into 5G and therefore...
No, I don't know.
Since the COVID-19 clearly originated in China and Wuhan, therefore Huawei and 5G are... It's one of those bizarre things.
Like, you can, and that's, and this is where, you know, you got to be careful because you're going to go down that hole and there's no coming back because, China is really pissed about the executive there. I can't remember her name.
Meng.
Yes. And she's living in a palace in BC or something or other, or, you know, like she's being taken care of, you know.
She's doing better than the two Michaels.
Yeah. Which Mike? Like Jackson? Like what?
Yeah, she's doing better than him because he died in his sleep.
Oh.
No, the Michael Coving and Michael Scorer.
Michael Jackson.
Okay. Yeah, but that's so the connection you have between 5G and COVID, again, correlation, causality thing. Huawei being Chinese, COVID being Chinese, Huawei being related to 5G, and let's not forget the adversarial relationship that has been, the situation between the US and China, at least for the last 2 years, if not longer.
Right.
So
Well, this was the US wanting her to be extradited.
oh yeah, the Meng situation is we didn't care. We were and this is where we got kind of played because it was clearly a political maneuver of some sort to sort of say, hey, she's involved with violating sanctions on trading with Iran. So I can kill two birds with one stone. One, I hate Iran. And two, we hate, we were really miffed at China. So let's, and Huawei itself is very much considered to be a state company in China because it's really hard in China to do anything unless you've got party connections, right?
So they're all state companies.
They're all state to some degree. Like there's some linking for the really successful ones. So
that was 5G. I mean, 5G is, I don't know. To me, is a ridiculous idea, but whatever. I mean, hey,
it's cool and all, but you can't go. There are not enough hours in the day. It's like if you ever watch, not that you do this, but if you ever watch one of the DC animated universes movie, it's called Doom, and it's basically Justice League versus the Legion of Doom. And it's crazy plot. Basically, Vandal Savage is going to like nuke the world, and the things coming in from outer space, and Superman says to Batman, well, okay, how about I push the Earth out of the way? And Batman turns to Superman and says, there's not enough time for me to explain to you why that could never work. And that's the situation with 5G.
So you have a virus, which is a living organism.
Exactly right.
Being created by radiation. I don't know. It's far-fetched, but you would be amazed. It's one of the top conspiracy theories that are right now.
Yeah.
And it's also part of something called, which we may have to research a little bit. I kept seeing Agenda 21. I'm not sure what that means, but maybe that's something.
So like that Order 66 from Star Wars, where all the all the clone soldiers kill the Jedi.
So they're saying everything that I was reading. It says, well, it points to Agenda. What is it? Agenda 20. I just thought it was worth mentioning because I'm not sure what it is. So
if you're gonna do that, make sure you use a VPN, a good VPN, and make sure you use somebody else's computer.
I was going to use your computer.
No, you were not going to use my computer.
You're right. Okay.
Okay. So the 5G one. So so the 5G one is certainly white out there. What's another bizarre one? That again, like let's focus on the bizarre ones first, rather than.
Okay. Yeah. So how about Bill Gates? I love this one. So Bill Gates in 2016 does a TED Talk, and Bill Gates is just basically being Bill Gates, with his, his $4 penny loafers and his twill shirt. And he says at some point in his talk that, hey, there's going to be a pandemic one day and we're going to need to deal with this, which translated into, for these conspiracy people, that I'm going to make a pandemic so I can create a solution that injects a microchip into your body.
Well, have you looked into any of those situations where they've done the microchip injections?
So there is nanotechnology. That's for sure. There's no question. But Bill Gates is on the other end of this going, guys, I don't know what to tell you. I'm being sued right now by like a lot of people. I don't have time for this shit.
Well, so it's funny about the microchip. So there was a couple companies, and what they've done is it's a little thing you can embed in your hand. So it's essentially your badge. So you wave your hand over the reader, and you get access to the building.
Yeah.
And now it's big.
Yeah.
It's big in the sense that it goes under the skin, and you don't feel it.
Yeah.
But
they have to
cut you open to put it in.
For sure.
Like
you have these for diabetics now too, where you can actually do the reading through
the subdermal, you get the readers that go into your arm. Yeah.
But to my knowledge, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, there's nothing you can inject with a syringe yet into the body that is a working mechanism to, track people. To my knowledge, I could be wrong. Feel free to leave a comment.
That was pretty loud.
I'm sorry.
You can't get excited like that. You can't lean into the like mic there, fella. You got a set of lungs on you. No, you're right. You're right. It's because you look at even the hardest spy fiction. All right.
Yeah.
They're always cutting implants out of themselves. By the way, we filled your blood with nanites.
That's right.
Right. Because we're not down to. So there's a couple.
We're not there yet.
Yeah. So there's two theories about how advanced civilization is. Yeah. One is how much energy they can generate. So the more energy we can generate, the more advanced we are. The other one is how small we can get. Right. So as we get into, and you're seeing, we're actually going more the small route in a lot of ways, because you've got Moore's law, which is what the computer power doubling every 6 months. So it's the number of transistors. They get smaller and tinier on chips, smaller and tinier. And speaking of Bill Gates, wasn't he the guy who said nobody needs more than 600 and some odd K of RAM or something like that?
I have no idea. I don't follow Bill Gates other than that sweet money.
Did you sign up for that?
Yeah, I did. I totally did. I got nailed. I don't know how many times with a Windows product. It's about time.
I never got nailed with it, but I did buy Windows products. And
okay. So if you're watching this and you've bought a Windows operating system in the last decade?
Well, they went back to Windows 3.1. So I think the earliest they start is 99, I think.
99. So if you purchase this, there are a class action suit right now, and
it's in Canada, by the way, not in the US. So
that's right. For our American friends. Yeah, unfortunately, only Canada at the moment. And yes, sign up.
Yeah, no proof of purchase required as long as you're under 250, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because who keeps their computer city receipt from the early 2000s?
Oh my God, right?
I actually, funny enough, I still have the CD. So I actually have a Windows 95. I think I still have a Windows XP. Sorry, not Windows 95, Windows XP.
Actually, XP was a solid system.
I preferred 2000. 2000 was better.
Yeah.
But it was a network. It was a base for networks. So it had its own challenges.
Right. So yeah, Bill Gates. And the problem that I see with this is it's just too big. And nobody talks about how he made the virus. It's just Bill Gates developed the virus.
Well, he's computers and viruses.
Well, obviously.
Computers have viruses.
Obviously.
Now, was he involved in the Ebola vaccine at all? I seem to remember
this guy does charitable work.
A lot of humanitarian work in that area.
All over the world. So why not just shit on Bill Gates? Why not? Yeah.
Well, so it's one of the challenges you get when you're so rich, right? What do you do with your money? You're like, well, I kind of want to buy my way. And I do believe there's an altruistic streak. However, you look in the past with the robber barons, Carnegie Hall.
Sure.
Do you know who built Carnegie Hall? Guess what? It was a steel baron who was like, I send in strike breakers to wreck stuff up. And you know what? I think I'm going to build a piano, I guess it's an auditorium, a piano recital, something like that. Right. Again, or I'll donate money to a wing of a hospital, whatever.
Sure.
So, and I don't think Bill. So I think this is one of those ones where Bill Gates, he's tied to it because of, again, he said, a pandemic.
He's super rich, and that's where it stemmed from, and just from there, people are looking to point fingers. They want to, twist the knife a little bit, and there's poor Bill. Now he's caused this goddamn pandemic.
Yeah, because exactly. Okay, so anyway. There's those two. Okay, so one of my other favorite ones.
Yep.
Okay, is the where is it now? The Big Pharma one.
Oh, yeah, like they didn't have enough money.
Right. So a lot of this comes down to, hey, you know what? We can make a killing if we release a bioweapon that we have the vaccine for, which we don't. But or did they, right? Because normally
they came up with it pretty quick. This is supposed to be decade to do this.
Well, so I think you're seeing usually 2 years is what they say was like, hey, a viable vaccine in 2 years, and we did it in 6 months. So let's just call Big Pharma the umbrella corporation. from the Resident Evil franchise, and let's say that this was their master plan. Okay, their master plan was to go off and cause death and chaos on on a pretty catastrophic level, right? Like this isn't World War II, but it's
No,
still pretty. Like we see countries shut down, we see suffering, we see death. Like we're talking, one of the horsemen is riding here. Okay.
and he's pissed off.
And
He's not happy.
he has not had his coffee at all.
He's a little upset.
He's a little upset, maybe a little constipated. We don't know. If you're on horseback, bow-legged, a lot of saddle sore.
So the only issue I have with that is, because it does it make sense that they could do something like that? Well, sure, it's well within their means to do, but they already are one of the biggest, baddest companies on the planet, and we need them. Like Pfizer, Moderna. I mean, these are companies that they have at their fingertips whatever resources they want. So I don't know. That to me doesn't make a lot of sense.
Oh yeah, and the money, sure, they got paid a lot of
Yeah.
money. Absolutely right. Like Operation Light Warp Speed in the States, right?
Mhm.
Where they were just throwing money. Every country is getting pre-orders in for the vaccine, right?
For sure.
They're
You see what's happening right now in Europe? Europe is basically saying we want the vaccines, or like they're going to put in export, whatever they call that, like tariff, so that they end up getting all of the vaccines.
Does
first,
that sound familiar? Remember the PPE with 3M?
right? And they
Right.
did that. Yes. So
Remember, states said, yeah, 3M. I know Canada's ordered a lot of PPE from you, but
not just ordered, paid for.
That's right. It was paid for. It's our stuff. It's there.
It wasn't. Hey, yeah, can I get a few million units over here? It's all right. We're sending you a check, and we expect our shit delivered. So that could affect all vaccines that are coming out of the EU. Now, where are the biggest pharma places? They're in the EU.
I know where they're not.
Moderna.
I know where
they're not here.
Not in Canada. Apparently, we decided somehow in our infinite wisdom, and again, this is more of a government, which I'm not a big, so I'm a bit of a libertarian, so I'm not a big government person to begin with, but I think the government needs to say, wait a second here, maybe, and I think there's some wake-up calls going on. Maybe we should say, hey, we need to maintain a local capability for manufacturing. If not, stuff for the dollar store, then maybe vaccines. Maybe some ability to deal with a pandemic.
Yeah, you're hearing Doug Ford say that for Ontario, is that we don't want to get caught in this again, where we don't have masks, we don't have ventilators, we don't have
vaccine.
We don't have anything. And here we are. Not that these companies that developed them, we weren't going to develop like a vaccine that quickly.
Well, what's we, right? So the government generally, this is all private. Like this is the days of where the government, even DARPA down in the States, I think it's all they all contract out all that.
Sure.
Right.
Sure,
like they don't build their own military exoskeleton prototypes. They say, hey, we've got some money. Who wants to build us a military exoskeleton prototype?
Right. And you know what? The mRNA, like I said, that's been around for a while.
It has. Yeah. There's actually a TED talk in it, I think from 5 years ago or something like that about how.
Yeah. So, like they use this new technology and they figured out how to do it. Good for them. It's 2 doses.
Apparently the
new one.
The Johnson & Johnson one is 1 dose and
66% effective.
Yeah, but doesn't have to be stored at, absolute zero on the moon either. So
yeah, that's also true. It's one of those things like, oh yeah, listen, you got to keep it at -70.
That's right. Yes, and don't
no big deal.
If you go over 80, you're going to travel through time.
Yeah, and so for the doctors and the nurses and the people that have to take care of this, it's like, what? Yeah, Johnny, pull it from the freezer and stab an arm with it, because if it goes down by a degree, you're screwed.
I got my buddy, he was involved in the rollout in Canada, and one of the things they were talking about was trying to acquire freezers.
Yeah, for sure.
right? It's all of a sudden you're trying to buy all these freezers. You need large scale ones to store it.
Yeah.
You need small scale ones to
But
transport it.
it's not just freezers, because a commercial freezer doesn't typically
Correct.
go to -70. So they
Correct.
need all
Yeah.
sorts of nitrogen and shit that we're not prepared. Story of my life. Here we are. All right, onward and upward.
All right. So you pick two. Here's my second one that is also
right.
right out there, that it doesn't exist. So
Oh, that's my favorite.
it's funny that this is the one that
The big
is
one.
like, it's like the non-conspiracy conspiracy. The conspiracy is that it doesn't exist. Okay.
Yeah.
That this is it's a, it's basically a plot to reduce our freedom and to keep us under control. The global elites, whoever
Yeah.
they may be, maybe they're the Illuminati, the Bilderberger Group,
The Rothschilds.
the Roth. Yes, God, could be the Rothschilds, right?
Haven't heard much about them in a while. So
I haven't heard much about any. Or what's the guys who were building the place on the moon or the Antarctic or something like that? The black helicopters. Who were those folks?
I don't know.
New World Order.
Oh,
Or maybe they were a prop. Maybe
They
they
were
were.
from-
Maybe they were a rap band.
WCW. Yeah. New World Order.
So this is one of the funny ones that, okay, it doesn't exist. Okay, well, okay, so it's this big conspiracy. So now, Benjamin Franklin once said, the only way three people can keep a secret is if two of them are dead.
I agree.
Okay, there is no way,
Yeah.
way all this stuff could be faked. So there are morgues filling up with people. Okay,
There-
now I'm not the biggest fan of some of the mainstream medias. Okay, but it's
That's right.
it's
I
hard-
think you know why I think that it's because it's a lot of old people, right? So you're
what do you have
old
against old people.
hey, these people got a foot in the grave already.
You just ask them to lie down, aren't you?
Just saying, all right. But no, you've got these. So, do you know anyone who's died of COVID? Personally,
I don't know anybody who's died of it. I know somebody who's had it, but I don't
Okay.
know anybody who's died of it.
who's died of it, and I think that's
In North Bay, like, don't you have like 3 guys who have COVID?
if that. And
Yeah.
we got rid of them. We
Got rid of them.
See ya. Put them on a bus. But I think it's it's affecting the older people, and so you get these guys that are like, is it even real? Is it even real? Should I wear a mask? Is it just a way to take away my freedoms?
And I'm not
Yeah.
saying that that's not an impossibility of, hey, we want to control people, and fear has always been that motivator, right?
Absolutely.
So you create the boogeyman, and so that's where the genesis of this,
Right.
conspiracy is that one of the great ways to control people is fear. The Red Scare in the 50s, right? It's the 50s,
Oh,
right?
okay.
McCarthyism, right?
Mm.
Communism. There are Reds everywhere. You need to step on this. You need to report. You need to be a good citizen. Better dead than red, or
Ooh,
red than dead. Depends on which side, I guess, whether you were a
That's harsh.
socialist or not, right?
So harsh.
And with particularly in the States, where you have this complete partisanship split,
Yes.
it's very easy to say, oh, well, obviously the other side, whoever the other side is trying to control us, right? So
That's the problem. It's always this unknown. So you get this guy Alex Jones,
info
right? But this is where a lot of this came from, and this guy is just off his fucking rocker.
Yeah, he's the
But-
the Sandy Hook guy, right? The one who says Sandy Hook didn't happen.
Oh, but he says
A lot of things.
He's on Joe Rogan. He's fun to watch. Watch him. Believe nothing, but watch him. He's funny. However,
Much like us, watch us.
watch
We're
us.
funny.
Yeah, give us a like.
Give
We're
us
very-
a like.
We're very likable. Well, I am.
It's the beard. It makes you look like Santa.
It's a strong beard game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because a weak chin. See, I have a strong jaw. I look like I have a fat face. I look like a chipmunk when I grow a beard. It's terrible.
Yeah. Well,
Strong jaw, my friend.
strong
Masculine
jaw. We won't tell them how you got it.
from my father.
Oh, right. You also had a strong jaw.
a strong jaw.
Yes, very. Yeah. So as far as this goes, I mean, here we are, and the sad part is that there's a following of people that are rioting So riots right now, as of today, there's a ton. One in Denmark. Who's ever
Yeah,
heard of
so
a
that so
riot
that
in
is
Denmark?
yeah, the anti-lockdown. So the question becomes is sometimes you see these riots and it's like, are they saying, hey, COVID doesn't exist? Or are they saying, hey, these blanket lockdowns, it's doing more harm than good. Stop. It's
Could be instigated. You don't know, right? It's
Mhm.
we're seeing it. We don't see much of it up here. I mean, most people are wearing masks. You get
We've
the
had a
odd.
couple demonstrations. Toronto, I think, is particularly bad where you'll have
Yeah.
they'll try and flout the restrictions. Quebec is having a bunch of disasters, not because people are protesting, just because they're ignoring it.
Yeah, and you have the curfew. I think they're
Yeah, and people are getting nailed. Like we're talking $800 for, I think it's 800 for, you
It's a
have to
lot.
be home by 8. Okay. And if you're not home by 8, if 8:01, you're out on the streets and you don't have a reason, which I think one of the reasons was walking your dog. So there was that
Yeah.
couple that thought if one of them was wearing a leash and walking on all fours, that would,
Oh, that makes sense.
yeah. Cause
We'll run with that.
we'll run with that. Right. So
I'm old. I'm in bed shortly after 8 o'clock on most nights. On a good night.
I get up at 5. Okay. So I get up at 5 for work. So I'm usually 9 o'clock, except on weekends. Like last night,
Yeah.
it's a Saturday. So Friday night I was up till midnight.
You wild man.
Yeah. That's exactly the term I was using. Wild man.
You're a wild man.
So the whole idea of, the virus was a fake to control us. Okay. And we've heard that many, many times before. It's again, fear. It is known throughout history that one of the best ways to control your population is through fear. And you just extend that to this. And all of a sudden, hey, there we
Fear and
go.
hatred. Don't forget hatred.
Hatred works. Yeah. The primal emotions, very lizard brain kind of stuff.
Yeah. Remember Germany. A lot of hatred.
Okay, so there's our 4 really out there kind of theories. So what ones are more plausible?
Oh, did we forget any?
There are tons.
Oh, there's more. But for me, well, the one that we didn't really talk about is the one that I think is most plausible,
which is
that in Wuhan, they were actually studying COVID-19 for years. So one of the main conspiracy theories that I kind of go, oh, this is entirely possible, is that it actually, did you put, oh, I see it, Wuhan lab, and that's what I put.
Yes.
Anyway, so the Wuhan lab, to me, is, hold on. Can you read?
Yes, exactly, right?
Yeah. So it's one of the only ones that make any sense, which could be just a total fuck up. Somebody left the lab and got sick. We're seeing cross contamination now with mink, with other animals,
the
right?
Cross species jump. So
Yeah.
the escape from the lab one is interesting, right? So you had a lab in there that specifically worked on coronaviruses, specifically from bats.
Yes, the strain that actually went to humans.
Well,
weird,
not the strain,
Okay,
but it's coronaviruses and bats.
Yes.
Now, one of the lead researchers had went off when this all came down and actually did the check to say, okay, no, these are not related to the ones we were working on. Like this, yes,
are they not related? How do we know?
I think the big thing they say is had more to do with the wet markets. It's not that it escaped from a lab. It's the fact that you have markets where they.
So if you're China and you're a little sensitive about letting information leave your country, yeah, you're probably not going to tell either.
Right? Because you don't want to necessarily become, despite Wuhan, I believe, being perceived at this point. Although the thoughts are, I think that it happened earlier than we all knew.
Much earlier.
Earlier.
They're showing that they've done antibody tests and people were infected probably as much as 4 months before. So
yeah, because December's where everything started to pop. You had
that's where they let us know, but the WHO offered to get involved, and the CDC.
Such a great band.
The WHO. But I don't even know what those people do, to be honest.
I look at a lot there. Any of the national bodies, like not national bodies, the multinational bodies, like world bodies.
Who's
I
the
mean,
guy that always speaks? He looks like he's in pain.
maybe
I
he
don't know.
is.
He,
Maybe
he's
he is
always got this.
bad
Yeah.
heart, sore heart from how things are. This is so this is the most plausible of it. Now,
Absolutely.
that doesn't mean that it's true. It just
Oh.
means out of all the other ones, like you compare it to 5G and Bill Gates,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
it's the
mean,
more plausible one, right?
let me run a scenario by you. I'm working in the Wuhan lab. I decide that, I fucked up. I don't want to tell anyone because, I'm in China and there's a good chance that I'm going to spend my whole time for the rest of my life in a small prison cell. So I may have got infected, but I'm not telling anybody.
Or I'm like, I got all these dead monkeys. What do I do
Yeah.
with them? I
Might as well eat them.
dump
Why
them out.
not?
I put them in the water. Whatever, right?
Yeah.
I throw them out in the garbage, right?
That's right. They've only been dead for 2 days.
Maybe a couple of them got so funny. I want to come back to the 5G one for a minute. Do you
Sure.
remember the Stephen King novel Cell?
No, and I'm a big that's one I haven't read.
So they made a movie out of it with John Cusack and Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, no.
And basically, it's like, hey, people on cell phones, signal comes through, turns them into crazy zombie-like people.
Well, that's plausible.
Well, it's as plausible as the 5G infecting thing, right? So
Right.
when you like, and I'm wondering if we went through a bunch of these. So one of the other ones is that this was a bioweapon, right?
Right. Yeah, and they're not sure who started it.
Correct. Maybe it was the US, maybe it was China. Maybe
Let's
China
start
released it.
a bio war without a vaccine. Good idea.
Right. And drop it on, wait, where? So if China did it, so the chance of China doing it, dropping it on themselves, very unlikely. The chance of the US doing it to say, how we're going to screw China with all the amount of international travel
and
no
not
vaccine,
shutting down the airports
and not aggressively pursuing it, not aggressively shut also makes no sense.
No, it makes no sense.
Right.
But and that's what I love about this stuff is that people are going to believe what they want to believe. And I get that. That's okay. But some of it's dumb as shit.
Well, I think people, like what we're doing here, sitting down and looking at these theories or whatever you want to call them, right? Some of them, some of them say theories, but it's like, okay, is it really a theory?
Have you had someone come up to you and talk about a theory?
So I haven't. My Shane has. So my brother has. My brother has had people actually come up.
Yeah. So I have too. And what you notice is something really interesting. As they start to talk about it and you ask them, oh, how did that? And they start to listen to what they're actually saying. And the more they listen, you can see the wheels starting like, oh, shit, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Are you familiar with Socrates?
Socrates? A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, Socrates.
Philosopher, yes.
Yeah, okay. So this is how he got himself killed. It's called the Socratic method. And what I do is I would say something, well, what is truth? And I would get you to explain it. And then when you say that, I ask more questions, like a small child. You can imagine how irritating that is. That's why Athens killed him.
Oh.
Right? So when somebody talks to you about a theory and you start asking them questions about whatever the conspiracy theory is, it really starts to put it under some pressure. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, wait a second. I didn't click on the next video in this YouTube sequence. So I don't know.
And you know what? I like to listen and I'm not asking questions to make someone feel bad.
Good.
I'm asking just questions in general. And I think that, they expect that you won't have questions.
Well, they expect you're going to be polite and just sit there and shut up
and listen to them. And I'm just not that guy. I just can't.
That is something I could agree with. Yes.
Yeah. I'm just not that. And I'm not trying to, put them on the spot and make them feel bad.
No, because you can ask the questions in a way, like get them to expand. And I mean, if you're careful, you can always ask questions and then lead yourself to a spot where you can safely exit the conversation versus get down to a state where you're really causing the question their beliefs. And then they either double down and basically call you a big poo-poo head and then stab you, or
I mean, there's always that, but I don't go that far. At least I haven't had to with COVID. I mean, it's there's not a lot of science to back up a lot of this stuff.
Uh,
You
n-
know.
uh, and that's the thing when you say that. I mean, I can quote sites that say also, I'm sure I can find a site on the internet. I love the
Mhm.
internet. Internet is my favorite thing in the world. Okay. You have the collective knowledge of mankind, humanity at your fingertips. It's great.
Mhm.
However, yeah, you didn't generally, it was hard to go into a library before and find crazy stuff because somebody had
Oh,
to spend effort and money to get that crazy stuff
there's
put there.
there's no limit. There's no limit to the crazy that's out on the
Hey,
internet.
we're eventually going to have a site if we don't already by the time of this podcast, which we may.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if we do, it'll show up somewhere in either the end
yeah.
credits, the opening,
I
something.
Yeah, and I'd like the viewers to understand that we want to hear from you. We want to share your experiences. Uh, but yeah, we don't want anything that like believing that the coronavirus doesn't exist. That's dangerous. It's dangerous to people. It's dangerous to my family, your family.
Mhm.
And those are the kind of things that I will ask questions. I just have to. I have to make you think a little. It's like anti-vaxxers. They're out there. I think there might be one outside my door.
Scratching.
I mean, that's a
Yeah,
whole other topic. But
yeah, that's we want I think we want to stay away from that from here because again,
yeah, yeah,
right,
yeah.
because this is where some agendas, some of this stuff, the agendas get right. So a lot of these things you can link back and say, okay, well, it links back to an agenda of some sort, right? So
Mhm.
one of the things is about the Great Reset, right? So we've talked about origins. How did this all happen?
Yeah. Well, the
Now
Great
let's talk
Reset
about what's
is
happening now,
right.
right? So this is where some of the other crazy stuff comes in, right? So the idea of my prime minister was talking about, I believe he used the term Great Reset. I don't know if he
Yeah,
used the
he's really upset that he did that. I'm sure because he's like, ah, shit.
for those who are unfamiliar, the Great Reset is basically the plot from Fight Club minus the Fight Club aspect. It's the idea that if everybody agrees that we can just,
Yeah.
then we're good,
Let's
right? Wipe out all debt, wipe out everything, remove all inequality and whatever, that we can do that because now we're at, you know, a lot of countries have added zeros to their debt, like an
Oh yeah.
actual zero on the end of their already a massive debt. And then they say, well, what is debt? What is debt? It's
Right.
such a huge number. We're never going to pay that back. We're barely making the interest payments. If this was
Right.
a house, it'd be like the never never plan for the house.
Oh yeah. The interest rate's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't, and that was the other idea is that, it's not killing enough people for a great reset. But
I thought you were
the
saying that like a bad thing. Like it's not killing enough people because that's a population correction. That's one of
yeah.
some of the other previous theories about the virus was a population correction, right? Like a world war.
But in the great reset too. I mean, that's sort of another, you can scare the world into a place where they say, okay, well, let's all become a world community.
Well, but see, it's funny enough, with you look at with all the lockdowns that are happening, right?
Hmm.
We're actually getting more insular, right? We're actually
Of
closing up the
course.
gates to all our villages and saying, everybody else who's not us, stay out. And even some of us who are us, if you're outside the walls after 8 o'clock, you ain't coming in,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
I mean, recently we are adopting more strict measures similar to what New Zealand did. Now, New Zealand's apparently had a really good success. They're also an island and a smaller population, but
Yes.
they have been hardcore with like they got 6 airports, lock them all down. Well, now we have the largest undefended border, so
Yeah, and I think you're
good
seeing
luck.
a lot of people jumping ship, you know. It's funny, but yeah, like when we had you had the lockdowns in Toronto.
Mhm,
Just what happened was a lot of people came north.
mhm.
So they came north and well, the shop and to use our recreational, our area because we're known for tourism. And that's all fine and dandy, but now you're also bringing our numbers up, right? So this disease sort of follows
Well,
migratory patterns of people, right?
so they've
So
talked about so one of the things they talked about here was the whole concept of the bubbles, right? So the maritime bubble, for example.
right.
They said that was somewhat effective. Again, similar to New Zealand's model of
Yeah.
you shut down access and who wants to go to the Maritimes
Yeah.
anyway? particularly in
Yeah.
winter. Boo.
But then you have a million people traveled out of Canada.
Yes,
A million
I
people
know.
traveled out of Canada at Christmas time.
I know, and
You
Melissa
know,
gives me hell whenever I go to the grocery store or to drop
yeah,
off milk for my mom.
and you have our officials who are saying, "Stay home, don't visit family. You're doing the right thing. Stay home," and then they go and go on vacation and do all of their wonderful stuff. So then
Well, and so this is the hypocrisy, right? So we talk about what's
yeah,
happening now. We start locking more stuff down,
yep,
and you're seeing a bunch of craziness happen. And the hypocrisy, I think, is what really gets people. It's hard to go off and say,
yeah.
"Do as I say, not as I do."
Well,
Now,
you're also taking away their livelihoods. There's a
so
lot of businesses that are going to close, that have already closed.
well, yeah, and the problem with that is any business that was struggling before this was the nail in the coffin.
Oh, absolutely.
Like if you didn't have a deep bench as far as a deep bench and a stocked war chest.
Yeah, man. And as a business owner, we've been okay. We've done okay, but we were always a little bit ahead of the curve. So, but our reserves will run out eventually too. But that's the problem, and that's where we're all at. We're like, okay, we need to lock down, because really, a solid lockdown will a real lockdown. This isn't fucking
So this
real.
is where I think we're going to disagree a bit. I'm a
That's
big
okay,
fan of targeted lockdowns. Okay. And
right?
I'm
Sure.
also a big fan that if you're going to let the big box stores open up with restrictions, then let the little stores open up with restrictions.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing at all with that.
Right now, but you're right. I saw a lockdown. If we all hunkered in our bunkers for 3 months.
Not even. I don't think it would be that long, right? I mean, you have to look at the life of this virus, right? And what's its length of time that it can stay with you, that it's contagious, and that's
Depends on whether you're a long hauler
know,
or not. So now I don't know if the long haulers are actually contagious longer. I know they said
I don't know.
14 days
That's
is your
yeah,
incubation
that's
period, and then
I don't
is it
know.
a couple of weeks? I don't know.
Well, you're contagious for long before you have symptoms.
Oh, sure. But my point is, once you have symptoms, are you no
Yeah.
longer contagious
No, I
after
think
you're
it's
done,
still.
or
I
are
think
you
it's
are you
still.
still contagious, shedding virus? And you know what? How
I don't
many
know.
armchair virologists
I have no idea.
has
Oh
this
yeah.
pandemic created, where all of us are like,
Oh
what's the infection level? What's the positivity rating?
no, I know, and really none of us. I, I don't know
I'm
who
a
to
criminal
believe.
psych major background, so
Yeah.
yeah, I hate stats.
Yeah, and I'm around people in the medical field. I have friends who are, you know, well, I have a doctor friend. I have a few friends that are in the field, and they say the same thing. They're just as confused. They're like, thank goodness our hospitals aren't, like they are down south, where
So we
you
haven't
know,
hit from what I heard, we haven't hit the triage point, but we're considering how we'd handle it if we did.
well, they opened a triage, I believe, like a field hospital in Hamilton or
Okay,
something or other.
Toronto's
Well,
just
it's
horrible.
yeah, and right now, I think they have agreements with our hospital to medevac if they have to. If they run out of room, they run out of beds down south, they can medevac um, to our hospitals, right? Because we have beds. Ontario has a lot of hospitals.
I
Um,
heard something about healthcare is about 42% of the provincial budget.
it's huge.
It's
It's huge.
massive. It is a
You know,
big chunk of what the province spends every year.
and you're still seeing cuts to nurses. You're still seeing,
Which is
cuts.
funny. You keep hearing how
cuts
we don't have enough, and then
right.
you hear
And
about cuts.
oh yeah, by the way, we're laying off, 20 nurses. It's like,
It's like,
really? Like,
okay,
okay.
but you want more, yes,
Yeah, we can't afford them, so
but we want more,
we
yes,
want more. It makes no sense.
yeah.
But that's the world we're living in right now, and I don't think the government knows much more than we do.
And that's it. Like this is really their first go at this. Now they've had enough time now, so it's fascinating to hear at the start when they talk about lockdowns, how it doesn't work, and then once everybody gets terrified, they're like, okay, we need to lock stuff down. And
Mhm.
it's all. I'm wondering if we're going to come back around full circle. We're going to say, you know what, the lockdown thing, it didn't. It did a lot of damage. And when we talk about damage of the lockdowns, for example, there's the financial, economic toll, right?
Of
If you
course.
can't work or if your business is getting smashed, that's a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
but there's also the emotional mental toll. So
Hmm.
some people really, really, really are in bad places because they're stuck. So
Yeah.
if you're by yourself and let's say your primary method of socialization is going out and seeing people, and now you're no longer able to do that.
Hmm. Well, you're seeing a huge impact on mental health and mental well-being, and now that's also affecting hospitals, right?
Mhm.
So you have, every hospital has a huge mental health side to it. That, my wife worked in the mental health field, and she's works with youth right now, and at that capacity, and it's bad, right? Because you have kids that are home, sometimes in homes that they don't want to be, right? You have uh there's two sides to, kids being out of school, and it's not good for their mental health.
Apparently Monday, they were able to go back.
Yeah, and from what we're seeing, when we call it a lockdown, but I don't know, things seem almost like normal here. You can still go to the grocery stores. Walmart's got people in it.
So we had a
You
blitz
know,
on the weekend. So this was the first time since the spring where I had to
yeah.
line up to get a new. So Costco, I went to get gas in
Damn you and your
Barhaven.
Costco.
Costco's awesome. Shut it.
I know, but I want one. If
So
Costco is listening, North Bay, Ontario is a wonderful place.
that's right. Captive
Beautiful,
audience.
beautiful sandy beaches. No, okay, whatever. But we
You
could use one.
like those sharp
We're,
little shells in your feet.
we're the
So I was
yeah,
at the Barhaven Costco. So they've got the gas pumps, which
yeah,
cheapest, one of the cheapest prices for gas. Not always the cheapest, but it's usually cheaper than everything else. But you can
right.
drive a town and phone cheaper. And I was like, okay, now I'll go shopping. And the line wrapped around the building. I was like, Now the Barhaven Costco is awesome. Lots of parking, ample ways in, totally popular. And in Barhaven, which is literally a sprawling anthill of people, like
Right.
there are just townhomes
Yeah,
everywhere.
sure.
So I went to Canada one, which has horrible parking. And like you get in, it's like a roach motel. You get in, but you don't get out. Right? It's just awful.
You leave a piece of your soul
You-
there.
uh, yeah, and
Yeah.
usually some paint and
Oh,
parts of your cars. People are grinding up
yeah.
against you. But I lined up. I was there outside for 2 minutes. Now it's cold, but 2 minutes, that's what cell phones are
Mhm.
for. So you saw that aspect of the queuing up, right? But other than
Right.
that, I mean, the only thing I've really seen is masks and the fact that, Starbucks only allows 4 people in.
I know. I know. And that's what I'm getting at is that, these businesses are going, they're going under. Fuck, let them open.
It-
You know, for how many cases? I just, I know I don't want people to die, but under, like, and we're looking at death rates, and the death rates, what is it, 95% are over the age of what, 75?
I'm not sure the
You
exact.
know,
So I think the mortality rate of COVID-19, at least based on the Canadian numbers, is like
yeah,
what, like
I can't,
1900 or 1,000 out of 775,000.
yeah,
Second, I got the number here. I'll
is it
tell
like
this.
5% or something? I don't know.
I think it's actually more like 3%. That's what it is.
Yeah.
1 second. Let me pull this up. So the number
The
is.
percentage is different, but what, as
So we have let's say 20,000 deaths,
yeah,
and we have 775,000 cases, like known cases. Now, I'm sure
right,
the case is higher. I'm sure that the numbers are higher for the number of
sure,
cases, but it's
sure.
known cases. So, and that, yeah, like, so when you look at that, I think that's like a 1 second. Let me figure out the exact number. Not exact numbers. It's rough.
No, but in terms of how many people die from pneumonia.
True. Now the numbers. So those, I was funny enough.
So
I was looking at those numbers. Now
right.
those numbers aren't as high. Okay, but part of that is.
So no one is dying of any kind of influenza.
So about
It's all
2.5
Oh,
mortality
okay.
rate is what the based on the numbers, like that's
Sure.
20,000 divided by 750,000.
So my question is, when you look at COVID related deaths, right? And someone had COVID and then they made it through and then they died, they're still being counted as a COVID death.
Well, and there's the comorbidities, right? So
So-
there's a bunch of things like this is where It will be.
If you're
fascinating.
90 years old, I'm sorry, but if you get COVID,
Hey,
if
Larry,
you get
Larry beat it. Larry King beat it before he died, and then died.
they still considered it a COVID death.
Well, because he had COVID and he had a bunch
Larry
of
and
other-
his like 12 wives were very upset.
yeah,
He had a lot of wives. Yeah. 7, I believe.
He married 8 times to 7 women or something like that.
Oh, it's weird.
He married one twice, but it's the whole idea.
Don't do that. Don't do
right.
it.
It's the whole idea that when you try, so afterwards we will have a better picture of we'll have a better picture and a better plan.
You think so?
Yeah, I do think so, because they're going to say, you know what, we need to figure this out. We don't want to go through this again. So when you talk about the whole idea of lockdowns and whatnot, our politicians really are screwed.
Mm-hmm.
The only way is all the way, because if they don't do enough, well, you didn't do everything you could.
Yeah.
Right. And if they do too much.
Before, this isn't new. Spanish flu.
Okay.
Didn't
Okay.
start
Let's
in Spain.
Yes.
So remember that.
Yeah. True. That did not start in Spain. Just a clever name.
50 million people. Well, they estimate. They don't even know. Bad recording. Bad data recovery.
We got guys going through sewage right now, figuring out the positivity rate in Ottawa. So yeah, I think we'll have a better numbers. But the fact is,
fucking gross.
The fact
Who does that?
That was how many years that was. Now I wonder, when you think about the Spanish flu, air travel isn't what it is now. So how quickly it spread? The question is, would it have spread more? Probably. Now it did spread a lot because of the military. We had a major conflict going on at the time.
It was World War I.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had troops and we had ships and
they had military camps, lots of breakouts. Those people came back.
Yeah, and it was H1N1, so it's not something that it's swine flu. That was the Spanish flu. It happened. It reared its ugly head in 2012, I think, or 10, and everyone panicked.
So there was. So what do we have? What have we dealt with so far? So there was SARS, MERS, bird flu, swine flu, and now bat flu.
The avian flu. Well, this is COVID. Yeah, coronavirus.
It's a bad flu.
Well, it's a bad flu or a bat flu.
Bat, like a Batman.
So they don't know if that's the actual case, if it came from a bat, because there's other animals that get coronavirus.
Well, this is a cross species
that they eat. Don't eat that shit. I don't know, man.
Okay.
Stop eating bats and snakes and rats.
So right now things aren't looking super great. So
especially puppies. Puppies. Don't eat puppies.
That's good. Well, John Wick would agree. I mean, don't fuck with his dog. I tell you.
No.
Murder machine. But okay, so that's kind of where we are now. We've got a lot of economic chaos, mind you, a lot of opportunity, but a lot of chaos, a lot of damage being done, deaths. People are just absolutely out of their gorge.
A lot of time. And I think that's one of the biggest problems. And I see it, and people I know, they don't know how not to be busy. That's the biggest thing that I'm seeing.
This podcast had its genesis in this, because we both found ourselves with some time. Like, hey, I can't go out and do something. Well, why don't we?
Well, when you had said this to me, you said, well, you ever thought about doing a pod? I'm like, what?
No, I said you have a sexy voice. And then you're like,
oh, right. You just like me talking to you.
And I'm like, yeah. Like that.
That's right. Anyway, yeah. So who the hell has time in a normal life to do this? I mean, we wouldn't have
a lot of people on YouTube.
Well, they do, but I mean, I wouldn't have thought I would, like with the kids and everything that we do, and you kind of go, oh, all right, it's a busy life.
Yeah.
But with everything slowing down, and I see it in a lot of people, is that they just don't know how to not be busy. They need to be busy because there's a lot of shit going around.
That's what kills you in retirement. Is a lot of people think that they get to retirement and it's all going to be. It's like, a sword sheath rusts. Right, you need to take it out, oil and sharpen it occasionally, and maybe stab some people with it. And if you're not,
well, and that's it. And they're bored. They like to socialize, right? They like to get out, and they like.
But this is a method of socializing for us.
Absolutely, and for me, I don't feel that it's affected me greatly, because I'm not really an out there kind of guy. So
I miss so Melissa and I used to go regularly on the weekend. We used to do our Costco run, again, plug for Costco, but we'd go for breakfast. So we had a very much a weekend routine where we would do that. You know, we'd go for breakfast, do our running around, get all our stuff. And now it's basically Melissa hunkers down in the bunker and I go out, you know, fighting off the zombie hordes.
Right.
And then, you know, come back. So
yeah. Well, I'm fighting COVID one bucket of ice cream at a time, man. I'm eating my way through this bitch.
So where do you see, okay, 2 questions.
Sure.
Where and when? So where do you see this going? Like, do you see, like, I think we're still in wave 2. So wave 3 is apparently better than wave 2.
Well, I don't know. They don't know. But
I don't know.
I think what we'll see, well, what I'm keeping an eye on personally is these variants, right? Because you have the variants, they're you know, so we're not sure. They're trying to say, well, it seems to be a little worse.
Well, so what's the South African one? I heard that it's like 50% more contagious infectious. I'm like,
it's actually, it's because of these spike proteins or whatever. I don't know. But
wear a mask. Wash your hands. That's
wash your hands is a big one, man. That's one that a lot of people
keep your hands out of your face.
Stop putting your fingers in your mouth. Fuck. I tell the kids all the time.
In your mouth.
Wash your hands. Anyway, where I see it going, I think it will just burn itself out.
So you don't think the vaccine is going to save us all?
I don't know. I don't. It's going to become something that we're going to have to get used to. And
so you think like a seasonal thing, it'll come back around?
Yeah.
Then...
well, we saw it. We saw that, right? It comes winter. Now we're at the peak, 4,000 cases in a day. You know, you go, oh, all right. Summertime, you're a couple hundred. And people were out. They were living their lives. You know, lockdown didn't really affect a lot of things.
One of the cool things I've been seeing is the idea that this whole experience has really upped the medical profession's game with regards to therapeutics. So in a lot of cases, you're going to have to work through this yourself. So if you get sick with COVID-19, I'm not going to give you a drug that's going to fix you. I'm not going to inject you with something. Your immune system's going to have to work. My goal is to keep you alive through that process.
Yeah, and they have, you know, I mean, you got to thank the people that work in the medical field that are like, you know, they're stressed. If you watch the news at all, you'll see they always interview some poor girl that's worked 100 hours that week, and they're like, well, how are you doing? She's like, oh my god, I'm gonna fucking lose my mind. Like, of course, and because it's a real thing, you know, like you're backlogging a system.
But it's also the idea that they figured out some things. I can't remember the $5 drug in the UK they were talking about, like an anti-inflammatory. You give it early enough in the process, and it minimizes. It increases your chance of surviving severe complications. I can't remember the details.
Well, they've been doing antibody treatments too, and treatments, right? So that once you, I don't know,
the blood of the young, man. I think that's key.
And a healthy person, and you see this, right? Is that most people that die that are young have other, you know, circumstances.
Healthy people, perfectly healthy people, can die of it. But
they can.
But it's like anything. Perfectly healthy people can have all sorts of problems. Mm-hmm. However, if you don't, and it's the comorbidities, right? So if you're carrying extra weight, if you're diabetic, if you got CPOD.
Yeah. And you're seeing that in minorities too, right? Because, you know, a lot of our native communities, you know, there's obesity and diabetes. And,
they've got challenges, right? You've got substance abuse.
Yeah.
You've got no clean drinking water. You've got a bunch of issues where it's like, hey,
horrible healthcare system.
Exactly, you know, right? Like it's really, because I mean, when you're in the middle of nowhere.
Well, this is it. So, you know, there's underlying problems, and then you have now a vaccine and no real way to distribute it in an effective manner.
Well, so this is where the military getting involved. Honestly, if there's one organization in all of Canada that knows logistics, it ought to be the military.
Well, it should be.
Like these are the folks who get the bombs and the tanks and the guns to the people who need the bombs and the tanks and the guns, right?
Right.
So Really, it should be, hey, and also the ability to deploy, like you saw that in Ontario, where the militia got deployed. The reserves were
Yeah.
deployed
Yep.
into the retirement residences because it was so bad.
Well, yeah, and you had people getting sick,
Mhm.
staff members. Now they can't be at work. These residential homes.
I got a buddy of mine. He's like, I keep coming back negative. He's like, damn it, I want some time off. I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't know if you want COVID-19.
I don't know if you want to roll that dice.
Yeah, like I mean, I'm sure
I've heard it. It can be like you see different stories, and some people are like, "Oh, it's no big deal," and then you have the guys that are like, "I was online. I'm so sorry. I thought I was dying."
Well, wasn't Chris Como from CNN? Wasn't he going on about that? Like Melissa eats that up with a spoon. She loves CNN, so she was watching him, and when he was talking about it, and he was,
I don't know.
Yeah, so
probably, but you get these, and then they get it and they go, "Oh man, this is okay. I'm sorry."
Yeah, it's yeah.
Like because you'll have people as well, just give it to me that way. It's over and done with. It's like, yeah.
I'd rather not get the Black Death.
Right?
How about I just not get bit by the fleas? How about
That's right.
Okay, so that's part of the where we're going. That there's, and I think that's something that's been kind of hinted that this may be something, whether it's the current variants or one of the mutations, because I believe the Spanish flu eventually just kind of burnt itself out. It kept mutating.
I did a lot of reading, and there's nothing. It's basically all of the scientific community said it killed everyone it could kill, and then created a herd immunity, and by virtue of just spreading so
not
quickly,
being dead, by people not being dead,
by
Let's
you
get
not
it, and
being
being
dead.
Yeah,
that's right, and which burnt it out. And then we saw it rear its ugly head 75 years later, right? Or whatever it was. So yeah, who knows? Will this thing mutate? Yeah, I think so. Will it mutate for the better? Maybe. I don't know. It's a crapshoot, man. But
the question is, will we ever get back to normal? So is wearing masks the new normal? I don't think that's the case. I don't know about you. I can't wait. Whenever I get in my car, the mask comes off. Like it is being ripped off my face. I have a cool Spider-Man one. It's coming off my face.
I got a beard mask.
Yeah. Yes. You know what? It's a shame.
Beard masks brought to you by the OC.
Beard masks. Oh God, I was gonna go off. I've got one of those plague doctor things. I should use that and just stuff it with stuff.
You should be like the gimp in the latex suit.
So this one is not. So my plague doctor mask, I got it for Christmas.
Oh, you have one of those?
I got it as part of a gift exchange, and it may be vinyl. So the proper plague doctor masks have like glass lenses, and I believe they're kind of leather, and they strap onto your head. This is more like a cosplay one that's vinyl. And
what you do on your weekends is your business.
This is what I'm doing on my weekend.
Oh,
here I am. Great.
I don't want to videotape.
Disco Elysium is not going to play itself, buddy.
Yeah, you're right.
So this is so I don't think the new normal is going to be people wearing masks and not seeing each other. I think the moment people, and we're already seeing it for the last year, 9 months, we've already seen it, that the moment there's a lull, people go back to normal. Like I was at a restaurant probably early December, like went and had breakfast. Now, there wasn't a lot of people there, bones are, but I went out and had breakfast. Now, Melissa wouldn't. She is absolutely terrified of COVID-19.
Right. I think, I think you're right. We're going to see the world as we know it is going to change. It has no choice. Will it make us more closed off? Yeah, probably.
Well, I think we're going to have a better pandemic response. Like I think if we knew what we knew now, December of last year, we would have shut down all the airports. Like there wouldn't have been people. I was thinking, like I had a trip booked for Myrtle Beach in March. Okay, I was able to get my ticket refunded. Thank you, American Airlines. If I did to Air Canada, that wouldn't have been so great, but I could have done that. Like, so I think the big thing going forward is that we have that pandemic response. You're not going to have people you're not going to have Doug Ford saying, go enjoy your March break.
Not this time.
No, right? Like
No.
you wouldn't have that again. You would have them say, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't do that. Right? Even on the side of
Yeah.
caution. It's like the mask wearing. The mask wearing, they were saying, don't wear masks. They don't help you. And then they changed their tune, right? Saying, well, okay, they help, they protect others from you. So maybe you should wear your mask, right?
Right.
People are going to go to the, you know what? Masks, wear masks, wash your hands. Don't travel. Done. Like there's going to be a playbook come out. There is going to be a playbook. We are going to see, no doubt, in Canada, a commission created to analyze the COVID-19 response.
Oh, for sure.
Identify
well, you're
failings.
seeing right now, you've got Justin Trudeau there talking about.
Does he have a beard mask? Because I can't help but notice he's got this like beard, and I don't think
he is. No, I don't. Have you seen him wear a mask?
Well, I don't hang out with JT much, so
I only
see him at his Rito Hall where he's out there. Looks like he's vaping because it's pretty damn cold the last time when he was doing his conference on Friday.
Hurry the fuck up.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's move this along.
Move this along. Why can't I do this from inside?
My gel is freezing. Oh God. I don't know what the future holds. We'll have to do another.
Yeah, we'll do a follow-up. So
we'll do a follow-up, but I think you're right. I think that we'll try and learn. And
they talk about history repeating itself, though. So
it did. It did.
We didn't learn from the first pandemic. Spanish flu. That was the first big one.
Yeah, but there's, like we've had experts saying for years, and it's funny because there's books and there's.
You're talking like Bill Gates, because we already know Bill Gates. We haven't heard where Bill Gates is responsible for all this. He's like,
Bill Gates of all people is like, we're gonna have another pandemic, and I'm gonna start it.
That's right. I'm just gonna start my pandemic.
Yeah, the experts have been saying for a long time that it's not a matter of if, it's just when. Viruses live on this planet with us. We have to coexist, and if it's not like we don't know this. Fuck.
No, but like anything, right? So I did security work for years and years and years, and usually when a company's on rough times, the first thing they cut is security, because they're like, well, unless you're in that rough times where you want to lay boots to people, in which case you want security to lay the boots, right? But usually it's like, well, what's the first thing we can cut? Well, security. Well, what security doesn't generate us any money. And has there been anything to justify? So they cut back on security, and then something happens. And then all of a sudden they're like, damn, we need more security.
Huh. So
this is a similar situation. This will be in the rear view, and the nice thing is we'll have history we can draw upon, because this is all heavily documented right now.
Yeah, and we're seeing, we're never going to learn. I hate to say it, but we think we're above it. I think that's the biggest thing, is that people are, we think we're not animals. We're part of this whole ecosystem, and when Mother Nature decides to get fucking ugly, which she can, this is what happens. And this isn't even ugly yet.
No,
I'm not trying to predict anything.
That's right. Great. Yeah. Great. The Phil virus is the next one. Phil said this.
Yeah, but
so the next hurricane is your fault. Gotcha.
Yeah,
thanks, Phil.
Hurricane. It's always the Latin ones that are the most dangerous. I don't know why.
The Latin what now? Sorry.
Like El Nino, El Niña.
Oh, you weren't talking like Latin as in like
Latin America.
Yeah.
Not as in actual.
Yeah, I was gonna say like like Deus Ex.
But of course. Yeah. So we're just gonna roll with the punches, man. That's all.
I think that, and honestly, I agree with you that is something that we're gonna have to figure out. So speaking of figuring out, what are we figuring out for the next podcast?
Oh, it's one of my favorite topics.
So if anybody has any questions or comments about this one, assuming we have the capability of receiving your questions or comments, by all means, flip us something.
Yeah, you can check us out on Instagram.
Try not to keep the
link on.
There'll be a link with all our social.
Oh
media
stuff. Social media, and an email address. I mean, there may be people.
Yeah, but we have to set that up. We have one, but right now it's not necessarily the domain one. So hopefully,
this is all new to us. This is a new thing.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Bigfoot. Bigfoot, Sam Squanch, Yeti, Swamp, Beast. Yeah, that's next. And we're gonna have a guest. We're gonna have Gary Reed. Gary Reed has a YouTube channel called Unfrequented World. I'll put a link on here. You can check him out. He's had some pretty weird experiences. Also, he's a Bigfoot enthusiast. So,
Does he have big feet?
no, well, maybe. I don't know. We'll ask him when he's here.
There we go. Whose feet are
Gary.
bigger, yours or Bigfoot?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, but yeah, he's a good guy. We've known him. Well, you and I have known him for years, and
I would say you've known him more than I have. I think my brother
Yeah.
knows him more than I do. I
yeah,
know of him. To say I know him would be a bit of an overstatement. I am familiar with. I am
Yeah.
familiar with him.
yeah. No, he's a nice guy, and some of his stories are really good, and I love that stuff. That's where I can talk about Bigfoot all day long, and he wants us to go squatching with him. So we're gonna talk about that, and maybe he'll convince us to go out and go into some pretty hairy places. That's how he describes them. No pun intended.
I was gonna say.
Yeah. So that's next week, and we'll do
Well,
that
not necessarily next week because it might not be next week. The plan is next week. So right
Yeah.
now, folks, the plan is to do a weekly set of podcasts. So
Yes, that's
Phil
right.
and I record these on Saturdays, and then they get edited. And I don't know if they're immediately posted. I don't think they are, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. So you can listen to us on Spotify. What's the other ones?
Google Play,
Google Play. Oh,
and Apple.
Apple.
Yes, that's the
right.
plan. So assuming this gets hosted, there will be
Yeah.
the podcast version, and then there's the vodcast version. So,
Yeah, on YouTube.
yes.
Yes. All right. So thank you very much for listening. This is Phil from the OC and my co-host.
Corey. Yeah, co-host. That's right. Yeah,
That's
host.
right.
Yeah, host. Sounds like you're my parasite.
Yes. And we will see you next week on the OC. Good night.
Take care, folks.